Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, April the 6th. Hey, we're going to check in with what the guys have to say. We're going to talk to Tom, Lee, Josh, and Gentry about their bodies of water. Hey, but don't forget, this week it's the city tournament there at Coosa Landing on Neely Henry. We got Bucks Island going to be there in the afternoon, a little bit of support for everybody, and we got Skeeter Beans with Jareth Bain. Our Skeeter rep's going to be there making some beans to feed you. We hope you have a great time Saturday. Come see us at the shop otherwise, but we'll be right back with what the guys have to say. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, April the 6th. Hey, we're joined by Josh Heron, going to talk a little bit of Logan Martin and Lay Lake. Josh, we got the Open coming up pretty soon after a couple of weeks of Elite Series events, but what's going on at Logan Martin that these guys should be paying attention to?
Man, these fish are wanting to do their deal right now. These cold nights keep kind of knocking it back a little bit. So you'll get a couple days where they're biting really good, and then we'll get a few of these cold nights again. It'll knock it right back. And you got fish that are trying to spawn right now. You got a lot of pre-spawn fish that are kind of staging around, cruising. So the back of these pockets, I mean, if you get around and you'll look, you'll see them pretty regularly. They're kind of in like this little trance deal right now where they don't have a lot of eating on their mind, but there's still a bunch of fish to be caught. You're fixing to get into the wacky rig deals, trick worms, stuff like that. Like you're way more kind of subtle techniques to kind of get some of these fish keyed up. Floaters are a great place to check pre-spawn fish on Logan, especially the ones leading in the mouth of some of these flat pockets. These fish really like to kind of lay up underneath them on these warm days and kind of sun. But yeah, man, it's not that easy, but it's getting better.
I think we've seen a little bit where on a slit day, the bite seems to be pretty good where there's not a bunch of wind, but the grass bite's starting to turn on a little bit everywhere. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, the only problem we had with the grass bite, especially at Logan and at Lay, or Logan and Neely, particularly in general, is when they did the drawdown earlier this year, or in the fall of last year. A lot of people didn't recognize that we had a big freeze while the lakes were pulled down. So that's really kind of killed that grass back. It was laying on the ground during the freeze. So it'll probably take a little bit longer to come around this year.
Yeah, so little isolated grass patches are good right now where you can find it. Lay Lake, what are you hearing out of Lay?
It's the same thing. They're all kind of fishing in the same phase right now. Spots are still doing really good at Lay. Largemouth are still kind of hit and miss on the day, but it's all fishing pretty relatively the same between the two. It's all going to be pre-spawn deal right now. So looking towards the back of some of these flat pockets where these fish are actually going to spawn.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting out there with my Eon Glide and seeing if I can get a big one. Brother, I appreciate everything. Thanks again, and we will talk to you again next week, my friend.
See you, buddy.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, April the 6th. Hey, we got Tom out on the line. We're going to talk a little bit of Lake Guntersville fishing. I think things were starting to turn a corner, and then we got a couple of storm fronts come through, didn't we?
Yes, it makes me a liar every week, I think. We have a good strong week of fishing, and then things just turn south about time for the weekend, But the fishing it's still fairly good. I think we're kind of in that little bit of a spawn funk. You kind of get in that, and it goes a few weeks, and things are really good for some guys and really poor for the other guys. That kind of deal. We've seen a lot of algae bloom up shallow, and that's really taken a lot of areas out of play. I mean, it's just kind of nasty, and it'll eventually get out of here. But right now, I think the fish kind of move away from that kind of deal. But that's mostly in that really shallow water, probably 3 to 1 foot, where we were catching a lot of fish. But I think that those fish, that were in those areas were really starting to move out to your humps, in areas like that. If they've done their spawn thing, if they haven't, then they're just still coming in. There's just a few baits, you really need at this time, and I think anything plastic, a stick bait, maybe even a swim jig. If you like to throw a topwater, buzz bait, a popper, those kind of things. There's a lot of fish that you can see on beds, and that's just kind of the deal. I mean, put that trolling motor on high, get a stick in your hand, and drive around, look. There's plenty of fish to be caught, and I think you can catch a lot without targeting beds, but you're targeting areas that have a lot of beds in them. That's been the secret, right? This week we did get some water come up. That was a really nice change, but again, with the water coming up, you always get a lot of floating grass, and then of course that algae slime is kind of a pain, but you just got to deal with it. Everybody else is dealing with it.
Is it an algae slime or is it the pollen that's falling on the water?
I think this is just a slime. I mean, it's just an algae slime that's come up. It's kind of strange. It was in the perfect depth. So if you got closer to the bank, you were out of it. If it came out a little bit, you were out of it. But I think it's kind of moved in, and it's anywhere that there's some grassy areas and it gets a little bit more stagnant air or stagnant water. Just not a lot of current movement, and so most of your backwater areas, things like that. But as far as crappie goes, I've never seen as big of schools as I've seen, but they are about that big. And I think some of these crappie are starting to get up on the bank, get a little harder to find, especially for those guys that have been out fishing brush piles, stumps, and those kind of things. So just
brother, we appreciate it all. Thanks for the information. We hope you and St. Jennifer have a great weekend and you put a few fish in the boat. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, April the 6th. Hey, we're joined by Gentry Gordy, going to talk a little fishing down in lower Alabama, talk a little bit of Jordan Lake, Lake Martin. Gentry, start at Lake Martin, that Clearwater jewel down there where the lower state Alabama plays. What's going on there?
Well, I haven't had a chance to get up there, Dano, since we last talked, but reached out to some friends of mine, and, they told me it was, 2 weeks ago, it was, lights out, best they've seen in a while. He said with a little bit of the rain and we've had some cooler nights, he said the water temperature has not come up any, but the water has. He said they're still catching some good fish. It's just kind of in a little bit of a funk right now. But, he said they're still hitting top water, just not like that. He said you could just about call you shot. But he said now it's just a little more scattered, but the top water's still a good bite. If you can find some clean water where there's no trash, a buzz bait. But a lot of them are throwing, a popper or something to try to keep the trash off the hooks.
Is there that much floating stuff on the water down there that you got to avoid treble hook baits right now?
Well, in certain places, depending on where the wind is, but the water being down all winter, as it starts to come up, everything that was on the bank just starts to pine straws everywhere. Yeah. So you just kind of, just certain places. But he also said they still catching some good fish, like in the boat ramps and all this down in the water. Getting in on them pretty well.
Sounds like a little bit of a Carolina rig, maybe a jig there. Okay, let's turn our attention to Jordan Lake. What's going on at Jordan?
Well, as again, I haven't had a chance to get up there this past week, but a friend of mine that lives up there said it is just stupid. He said the spots are up on bed. He said, swim jig, chatterbaits. He said this is the time of year when everybody can go up there and catch a good bag of fish and just catch them all day. The largemouth are up, but he said the spots are more predominant because the water's still a little bit cooler. He said they tend to like that cooler water. He said it don't matter. He said you can get in the canals because they're pulling water, from this little bit of rain and catch them. You can get in the back of the pockets. He said they're just everywhere.
Man, it sounds like it's a lot of fun. Has the grass started growing up at Jordan yet? Have you seen or heard that?
He said keep a swim jig honest. And I think it's at the point where it's still brown, but you're starting to get some of it to turn green, the little sprigs here and there.
Okay.
But for the majority of it, it's still brown.
Gentry, as always, brother, we appreciate it. Appreciate what you do. Take care of those people down there, and we'll talk to you again soon. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, April the 6th. Hey, we're joined by Lee Pitts, who claims after the Neely Henry Coosa River Team Trail Tournament last week that he may be living in a van down by the Coosa River. What's going on at Neely Henry this last week? It seems like a weather change kind of pushed a few fish off for people, but some others still got them.
I've spent a lot of time down at Neely this week. We've had some weather issues again. I mean, that's kind of the key to it. If we can get a few days where everything is stabilized a little bit, but man, the winds, with the rain and some of this cloud cover, the fish are trying to get up there tight. They're moving to that bank and they're trying to get up there to do their thing. But Mother Nature is just not going to let us beat on them too hard right now. Every time they get situated and get where you think you got them figured out, we'll have a weather change, have some muddy water come in due to this wind, and it just blows it all out the window again. But the bass are trying to get up shallow. They're trying to get up there in that skinny water. I know a lot of people early in the week, were kind of not getting the spinnerbait, chatterbait bite, but having to slow down with some plastics and just really, really just Senkos, D-bombs, even little speed crawls, something like that, just trying to get something that they could pick up cleaning those banks off.
Yeah, I know this time of the year, man. I like the moving baits. I like all those things, but boy, to flip a D-bomb, that buckshot color around the grass, man, I just have a hard time putting it down. Weiss Lake, what's going on there?
Weiss is about the same right now. We've just had some weather issues. A lot of the wind, midweek we've had some hard winds for 2 or 3 days, and it's just kind of churned that water up. Some of the protected little areas, like Bay Springs, some of the pockets that may have a little bit of block from that wind are a little cleaner, and that's the key to it right now. Looking for some of that cleaner water. Some of the stuff that the fish that had pushed up shallow are not just getting rolled. We've had some pretty tough winds this week, and a lot of these shallow fish, they've just backed out a little bit and they're kind of in a holding pattern. They don't know what to do. They don't know to go up there and clean that bank or sit back out in that 4, 5, 6 foot of water and just wait for better days.
All right, 30 seconds. We got to touch on the crappie bite overall in the area. What's it like?
It's nerve-wracking, to say the least. The crappie are trying to get up there on that structure. They're trying to get on these shallow docks. Neely this week, Canoe Creek, some of the other areas down that way, fish were getting on the docks in that 4 or 5 foot of water. But there's still some fish out there deep that you can graft, and they're just not doing nothing. They're laying on that bottom real tight, and they just don't want to bite.
Yeah, they're close. We appreciate it, brother. We'll talk to you again next week. I'm going to fly on out of here now.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Well, that'll wrap up our Bucks Island area fishing report for Saturday, April the 6th. Thanks for spending the time with us. Don't forget, Bucks Island's here to serve you Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, Saturday, 8 to 2. It's the season's hours, and we are full swing. We got the parts, the boats, the service, and the tackle to help you, and we appreciate you. You are the best part of Bucks Island. Thanks for what you do. We look forward to seeing you, and we'll talk to you again soon.